guest today for episode number 8 is Chief Master Sergeant Andy Shone. Chief Shone is the current Defender Chief at Kunsan Air Base. This podcast in itself is unique because it is the first time I interviewed someone that I had not previously spent time with prior to the podcast. I was fortunate that there are plenty of Security Forces Airmen on base that knew him and shared information about him with me prior to our podcast. One of his tech sergeants said, Chief Shone is known for giving motivational speeches to get people fired up as if it was halftime at a football game. Through the help of his Security Forces Airmen, Chief Shone and I were able to have a good conversation. Chief Shone had a lot of experience and ideas to share. He is an avid reader and shares a couple of his favorite books. I asked him how he motivates airmen within the challenging career field of security forces. We talk about thinking critically and self-reflecting. One senior NCO told me that Chief Shone is a great listener, so I asked him how he developed that skill and maintained it throughout the ranks while everyone else is looking to him to provide answers. He shares a story about recognizing his facial expressions as a senior NCO and realizing how his behaviors and the facial expressions were making him unapproachable to his team. When I started this podcast, I wanted to focus on identifying leadership concepts and behaviors to adopt and become better from it. This 90-minute conversation hits what my vision was when I began doing this podcast. Enjoy our conversation with Chief Shone. And Chief Shone, thanks for doing this. All right, today I've got for episode number 8, we got Chief Andy Shone, Andrew, but you go by Andy. He's the Defender Chief at Kunsan Air Base. What's really unique about this podcast, surprised this is his first one that he's ever done. I just assume most chiefs get invited to these kind of things all the time, but what's really unique is I don't know him very well. We encountered each other for like maybe 20 seconds at that weapons loading competition, and you just showed an interest in it through Chief Stewart, and I said, yeah, let's bring him on. I'd love to, I'm just trying to get to talk to as many people as I can. It sounds like you got a good, interesting story. Being the Defender Chief, I talked to a couple of different defenders on base to figure out things to ask you, and we talked for about 20 minutes before we started this, and I think it'll be really good, and I appreciate you coming on here, giving me my first experience to try to interview someone that I know very little about. You did make it easy to talk to for those 20 minutes, so before we start, you just introduce yourself a little bit more, and we'll get started.
Heck yeah, man. So as John alluded to, Chief Andy Shone, I'm the Defender Chief here at Kunsan. Been in the Air Force for about 22 years, and this is my 9th assignment here to Kunsan. Got a myriad of different experiences throughout the Air Force, from normal law enforcement base defense operations, protective services detachment operations. I got some air base defense, a little bit of CRG under my belt, and then now I'm here within protection of the peninsula. So I tell you what, it's been quite the ride. I hit 23 years on the 20th of this month. So nice. Looking to see what that's all about.
Michael Jordan year.
Yeah, exactly. But no, man, just excited. I appreciate you inviting me to be on the podcast. And I got some big shoes to fill, which I'm all right with.
No, I'm sure you're going to do great. Man, you've said so much, and that's what I'm getting better at with this, is people start saying things, and I'm like, oh, I want to ask that, I want to ask that, I want to ask that. I need to have someone write down things to ask or make notes. But you said you did about 5 different things. This is you said 9th assignment. 9th assignment overall, 9th assignment to Kunsan.
No, 9th assignment overall, yeah. First assignment to Kunsan. Okay.
Out of all the assignments and different jobs you've had, which one was your favorite?
I'd probably have to say I was stationed at Ramstein, and that was when I did some CRG time. Okay. So there I was in a pretty interesting position within the CRG, right? So we did the CRG mission, and then we also had a pre-deployment training schoolhouse there as well. Mm-hmm. So I kind of was the superintendent on both sides, and that was just another great assignment. It opened up so many different doors with, training nuclear defenders there in USAFE, and then also, performing and linking in with the 173rd and doing tandem operations with those guys. What a great experience it is.
I bet it's fun to just all these people deploying, all these people in your career field, you get to meet and just see them grow and make connections that way. So did you, even though you were their superintendent, did you get to deploy a lot, or TDY a lot?
So not necessarily. No, I know I did one mission that we were able to go into Africa with, and then we did a couple training missions. One was in Romania, which was phenomenal. We went out there and built up a base for 30 days, and then had some planes come and run missions out of there, which was really cool.
It's really rewarding to like put stuff like that together and be a part of it. Are you a history fan or World War II fan by chance?
Yeah, I do like World War II. I like history altogether. Yeah.
Yeah, being out, I was at Spangalen before coming here, and just all those opportunities you get to see where these like major world-changing events happened. I went to where Adolf Hitler's bunker was, and it's just like a apartment complex.
Yeah.
This was like changed so much of history in this average parking lot, rundown parking lot now. Yeah, I think that stuff's really cool. There's the sound of freedom. If anyone can, if my mics don't mute that out. But cool. Let's talk. I know you said you had a lot of different assignments, and before we started, you said you worked with the Army for a couple of years as a senior airman, or after?
So I haven't necessarily working with the Army, so I haven't been assigned or stationed with the Army, but I've just been able to be given the opportunity to be able to go and accomplish some Army schools.
Okay.
So just kind of going on to the other side, reaching over to one of our sister services and being able to go through some of their intense training, which was pretty enjoyable. I know I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, there was a lot of suck involved in it too, but I think it was more accomplishing the goal and getting through it, getting to the end state, and having that that intrinsic motivator when you get to that end state.
Yeah, that you did it, that you accomplished it.
Yeah.
What rank were you when you first started going to these schools?
So the first Army school I ever went to was as a staff sergeant. So pretty fortunate enough. It took me about 2 years, but finally that school was U.S. Army Ranger School, and like I said, it took 2 years. So the Air Force has their own pre-Ranger course, which at the time was being held out in Indian Springs, Nevada.
How long is that course, the pre-Ranger course?
So that one was 14 days.
Okay.
And so we would go out there, and it was a tough course, especially when you're not acclimated to that type of training, and you go out there, and the next thing you know is like as soon as you hit the ground sprinting, and it is pretty much you're up straight for 14 days, and you're probably getting fed 1 to 2 meals a day, and then you're just moving miles and miles with heavy weight, which is good. It's good for you.
That's in Vegas?
Yeah, that was in Vegas. They no longer offer it there.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are just at the clubs, like 1 meal a day, staying up all night. Doesn't sound like that bad of 2 weeks if you're just gambling. So doing it that young as a staff sergeant, I feel like that would change. Like I feel like I developed a lot who I was, not only as a person, but as where my role in the Air Force. How do you think doing that kind of stuff at that young of a career changed like who you were as a person and like just your leadership style for the Air Force?
Yeah, so I mean, they call it one of the toughest leadership courses probably in the Department of Defense that they offer. One, because they put those expectations on you to lead a squad or a platoon when you're really tired and you're really hungry, and so it really taught me a lot of things about not stopping, not quitting. Always you can keep going. And I think those were some of the biggest lessons I gleaned as a young staff sergeant was no matter what, like your body can get up and it can go.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to stop, or if you do stop, you can always get back up and you can continue on.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's definitely something that I've kind of used throughout my career. And then of course there's been many other things that have kind of come and gone and have also built that leadership acumen as I kind of progress on, you know what I mean?
I do. Yeah. Just I've never done any like challenging military course that it requires a lot of athleticism. But it sounded a lot like David Goggins, how, in Extreme Ownership was kind of you can do so much more if you're forced to do it or your buddies are doing it. Like you're going to persevere and just get through it. Did you feel like that? Like when, I know you listen to David Goggins books or read them. Did you ever like compare your experiences to what he went through?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting in his book, Can't Hurt Me. He had talked about Ranger School a little bit in that book, and I was able to kind of relate to some of his experiences that he kind of was talking about. Um, yeah, I definitely felt the same way, because there is going to be the suck. And when you're in it, you're in it. And when you're in it, look to the left and right, because those guys that are right there in those positions, they're going right through with you.
When you're going through that, is it just like special forces in the Air Force where if you just have 3 seconds of I'm done and say I quit, like you're done? Or is it harder to get?
Yeah, you could quit whenever you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the times when you get through the first week in Ranger School, though, like, nobody really quits after that.
That's good.
Because the rest after that is just all mission planning and execution.
Okay.
And then learning some new skills like some mountaineering and maneuvering a boat through the swamps and whatnot.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah. Well, who would quit that?
Yeah.
So, leadership wise, I think being a defender, something, I meet cops. I've been in for 12 years now, and you meet a lot of security forces members or defenders. Sorry. You just try not to say the word cop. I know a lot of them don't like it. And some of them do like want to cross train and get out. How do you think you find the way or the time to motivate them to like keep them in or keep them motivated when they have to sit at a post for 12 hours a day?
Man, that's a good one. That's a good question. Because yeah, I do experience this a lot, because what we'll do is we'll invest a lot in a guy, and we'll teach him the skills of what he needs to be able to attend some great training like Ranger School, and then come back, and then he's hungry and he wants more. And honestly, like I don't want to pull that back. Like, let him go and accomplish what he can. My career field it's a big career field. And so kind of the thought process is that we're going to make some more, yes, we want to try and retain some of the good ones, because it's imperative to continue the mission in security forces. But, if somebody's hungry enough, I say encourage them to go.
Mm-hmm.
Help them with some of those goals that they may have, because those battlefield airmen careers, they also need some good leaders as well.
Yeah.
So it's maybe a different take on what some others are thinking,
Yeah. Yeah. Just, it seems like a daunting task to do. Like I just see it at the clubs or the bars, and a lot of them aren't super happy, but some of them, Mike Thompson, like love it. And they're just like super pumped to do it. Mm-hmm. We've got security forces in our leadership class, and he's just like pumped for them. Not saying he plays favorites, but you can tell he like cares about security forces people. And it's really cool to see like how much pride some people can have in doing it. And I assume you've got a lot of pride in the career.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's been a great, I've had some awesome opportunities. Met some great people. Mm-hmm. I have been able to do some pretty remarkable things as well. And I've had some great experiences so far. I do enjoy just kind of passing on with some of those experiences. I would say one of the biggest things that I've tried to do is try to help people. How can I help people? Mm-hmm. I say that's one of the best things that people with any type of influence can do for other people is help them. And so you have to kind of find what those niches are, those ways to kind of help people. And sometimes you have to draw it out of them. Yeah. Sometimes you're helping people by just inquiring with them and just learning a little bit about their story. That's another amazing thing that we get in the Air Force too, is we get to hear some amazing stories.
I agree. People's
backgrounds, where they come from, what type of adversity they've already gone through. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, you don't have to share names, but like, what are some of like those great stories you've heard from your people?
Yeah, absolutely. I had heard one just a little bit of time ago. No names, of course, but I heard somebody who had went through a very tough situation where, they figured out high school wasn't for them. They dropped out. Then they figured out that, hey, me dropping out and working low-end jobs is not going to get me where I want to go. So then they started grinding and getting back into the game, and they went back to school. They graduated high school. Then they went to college. They graduated college. Then they got their master's degree. Now they're sitting here in the Air Force, like doing some great things and working hard. And it was that work ethic, I believe, that the individual grabbed in his schooling mm-hmm. that really propelled him forward, because that individual is just killing the game right now at work.
I bet. And I just want to know, I don't know if you don't have to answer this. Is it an officer or an enlisted person?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, no, all right.
I mean, it's an enlisted person, you
Okay.
know? Yeah, it's an enlisted person.
Hopefully
but
not for long.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the drive.
Are you a big school goer? Are you?
So there are some people that do get enjoy school, but no, I mean, I do it. I enjoy learning. I'm always a student. I know that right now I'm kind of going through a master's program right now to just trying to grab onto more education, capitalize on, being able to walk away with a free bachelor's and a free master's degree paid for by the United States government. And then also max out that Air Force cool too. So those are plans for before I retire.
Use
goals, I guess.
Yeah, that's the goal. Use all $4,500 of the Air Force cool. Man, that thing's hard to use. I have yet to use a dime of it, but I'm going to somehow.
Yeah.
Have you dug into it yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Yet. No.
Yeah.
Steered a couple people towards it, but
yeah. So something I say about going to school is he was an A1C and I was a master select when I met him, and I was kind of going to school. I'd go to like 1 or 2 classes a year, and he was like, "Sergeant Tisue, do you like free money?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, of course I do." He's like, "Can I just give you $4,500 a year?" I was like, I'd probably get in trouble for that, but if we kept it between you and me, like, sure, I'll let you do that. And he's like, "You got to use your TA, sir. Like, it's free money. It's just free." And I'm like, "Okay, you're right." And in the moment, I'm just like, "What an asshole." He's talking to me like I don't know that. But now I can like look at it and be like, "Man, he was right. Like, it's $4,500 for free every year for school." And so, now I'm also in a master's program, and it is really cool. Like, and like knowing that now, I look at other people and I don't think less of them. It's like, man, it is free. Like, it is free to go to school, and you can leave with a free master's degree. And more if you do it right.
Just set yourself up for when you choose to separate or retire. That way when you go out, you're definitely marketable and ready to get after it, and make some money.
It's true, and it actually I do learn things like writing these 5-page papers about how to influence an international business. It's like, oh, this is miserable, but like just typing and like learning how to think, and then make sure my grammar's good.
Yeah.
So it all works out.
Hopefully you can grab some experiences from here in Korea, and then be able to apply some of those things too.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
definitely. I think that's what's good about moving so much. It kind of sucks, but you definitely learn, like, you meet a whole bunch of new people and you have a whole new job to do it. There's so much growth that I know is happening that I don't think I really understand until I'm probably out. Then I'll miss it. I know, so you're working on your master's, but just books in general. I know you're a reader. We kind of briefed over that before we started. Yeah. What are like some of your favorite books you've read?
So I do enjoy reading a lot, and I get a lot out of it as well. It definitely helps you think. I like the old adage, right? You want a new idea, read an old book. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting thing because, of course, times are different, so it gives you a different perspective, which is good. I know that, like for me, if I was to recommend a book to somebody, I would definitely take a look and see what situation are they in, what situation are they going into. So if it's somebody that's, a commander, I might say, all right, so, going in, you're a fresh set of eyes into going into this command. Definitely check out this book, and it's called Turn the Ship Around, right?
Okay.
What that book is it's about an old Navy captain who had received one of the worst sub crews in the Navy, and then he turned it around to where it was the best sub crew in the Navy. And the reason he did that is because he just empowered his sailors at every level to make decisions on their own. And so that's one thing that I definitely applaud, because I know that you can work more decentralized that way, but you can get more done, and then you can lead the organization further. You can kind of make it transformational that way. Yeah. Which is pretty amazing.
It is really amazing. It's funny you say I've seen so Kiara Fraser, guest number 3, that was her like go-to book that you have to read if you're trying to be a leader. So it's cool you said the same one. And I bought it. I haven't read it. It's somewhere between Chicago and here right now. And I did watch a YouTube video on it, and it was cool. Like, it had like little cartoon characters. It was like a 7-minute long video. It was pretty good. So I can get the concept behind it. That is something the video or her didn't really explain that concept of it, but a lot of people will ask like these very simple, what I think are very simple questions, and I could answer it, but I like to just like, well, what do you think we should do? And they'll usually say exactly what I'm thinking. I'm like, oh, good idea. Do that. And I think that's like what that video was kind of getting at when I watched it. How do you think you do that a lot?
I don't know. I would think sometimes. I mean, empowerment is pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I know for me, when I was a young leader, I didn't necessarily do that.
Empower
I didn't
people?
do it. Yeah, I didn't do it as well as I should have.
Yeah.
And so, critically thinking is a good idea too. It helps you become a better person, better leader all around, right? So you critically think through some of your actions. You can kind of think back and go, okay, I learned from that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me try not to execute those same things. So empowerment, I learned a little bit later on in my career, but that's you letting go and allowing them to kind of run things down. But the great thing about it is when you do empower people, say they come to the table with a great idea, then those individuals are going to run that down and make sure that it doesn't fail.
Yeah.
So if I came in and I said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do it this way. And then they could be like, okay, Roger that. You're the boss. Like, we'll do it. And they'll probably put half their heart into
Mm-hmm.
it. But if it's their idea, they're going to give it 100% and make sure that it does not fail.
Yeah. It's such a simple concept, but
Mm-hmm.
it makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
You said you like to let people think critically or think critically yourself, and then you think about decisions you made. I guess self-reflection.
Yeah.
Do you self-reflect a lot?
Yeah, I do. I'm always trying to be mindful about, how I'm handling certain types of situations. I think that's a good skill for any leader to kind of think about where your shortfalls may be or how you handle specific situations. Because I had mentioned earlier, man, I'm always a student.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I teach myself, which is unbelievable.
You could write your own book.
Yeah.
On self-reflection. Are you a journaler at all?
Yeah, I do. I wish I could do it more, but I get a little bit out of journaling.
Pen and paper?
Usually, yeah.
I do. Actually, it's right over there. It's just something about a pen, a nice pen on a good piece of paper.
Yeah,
and it's like, soothing.
Just thinking through some things.
Yeah.
That's where I do some self-reflection as well.
How's that?
Just when I'm doing journaling.
Okay.
Just kind of recollecting, thinking back. But kind of, I know that you had asked about books real quick.
Yeah, sorry, I can do that.
That's all right. So as I had mentioned, man, like I think it depends on what the situation is. If I was to recommend, so if a young NCO, a staff sergeant, tech sergeant came to me and was like, "Hey, Chief, what kind of book do you think I should read?" That's when I would say, "Hey, you should check out Jocko Willink's Leadership Strategy and Tactics book."
Okay.
Because I think that just talks about a lot of things, and the concepts in there are really simple. It's a good, easy read. It's one of those deals where, where it says "Don't be an idiot." Like that's a good advice, for a nice young staff sergeant. Just treat people with respect, because sometimes when people get power, they kind of forget about people that work for them. You know?
That's good. Yeah. I feel like sometimes I'll read books and be like, man, and it says like, don't be an idiot, or like, it's this very blunt way of what not to do. And I'm just like, oh, like I've done those things.
Yeah.
Like, why do I do those things? One of my favorites is Chief Wood's book, What Got You Here Won't Got You There. What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And there's this part of where it like says like, when someone tells you something that you already know, just say, okay, thanks for telling me that. But I don't do that. Like, and all air traffic controllers can know this, and probably most people in general. When someone tells you something you already know at work or in your personal life, you're like, yeah, I knew that. Or like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And like, all you do is just piss off that other person by saying that and make them not want to talk to you. And when people do it to me, I feel that way, but yet I was still doing it all the time. And I'm like, well, okay, don't do that. Yeah.
That's funny, man.
Yeah. What other books you got?
So definitely Simon Sinek's Start With Why. That's definitely what a lot of our airmen today want to know. They want to know why they're doing things, which is completely understandable.
Yeah.
You can't blame them for wanting to know why.
Do you think we blamed them for wanting to know why 10 years ago?
Just a different Air Force 10 years ago. I mean, think about it. Like 10 years ago, we were at the precipice of, we were definitely involved in war, and depending on which time frame, right? Like it was pretty thick. In both AOs. So, I don't know, could potentially.
Yeah.
But starting with why, I think is a good one. Sound of freedom again.
I think this thing mutes it out. I think.
Yeah.
I feel like I've never heard it on any playbacks, but we'll see. I'll check. 23 minutes in.
Yeah. But the book that I'm reading right now, I'm reading The Kill Chain.
Okay.
By Stephen Ambrose. It's pretty intense. That one is about peer competition with China and where we're at currently right now if we stay on our current end state. And that is just a wake-up book.
Yeah.
Like, holy cow, that thing would give me nightmares just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Got kind of pointed that one from
it's a horror book.
Chief Bass. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
A real world one.
World.
Yeah. But I heard Chief Bass speak about a month ago, and she's kind of she's pointing some people to get after that and read it. Get some perspective for the Air Force.
What kind of thing? Try to get people to want to read it. Chief Bass wants people to read it. How is Chief Shone going to get people to read it? What's interesting about it? What's in there?
So that's a great question, man. I'm only on chapter 5 right now. So for the most part, it is talking about where we're at currently with our peer-to-peer competitions with China and how much more that they are advancing in those in the competition. And I would say the big thing about it, it's scary, right, is they don't have the same process or purchasing process simulations that we do in the Air Force. If China sees something that they like from a brilliant creator, then they go, okay, fine, this is ours now, and we don't necessarily have those powers because we have different values that we have in the United States.
Well, like China just claims the idea of their innovative people and doesn't pay them for it.
Right. Well, I don't know. I can't necessarily talk if there's compensation about it. Yeah.
Hopefully a little bit. Otherwise, people would just not invent things at all. That does sound really good.
Yeah.
You got any others?
Scary.
Yeah.
Let's see. Other books incorporated with that. Yeah, man, there's a bunch of good ones out there.
Yeah. I could just like look left and start reading them. When you said start with why, I read that book not that long ago. I think maybe 6 months ago. And my favorite part in that book is within, I think, the first couple of chapters. But it just says, here's why you got to start with why. In like the 1800s, I'm going to guess 1840, 1870, somewhere in there, railroad companies just owned America. They were the monopoly. Every railroad owner was just this rich person. And if you worked for the railroad, you were probably doing pretty well. And that's what they were. That's what they were, was just railroad companies. And I'm sure you've read this part, but then, so in like 1912, 1920, something else came along, the airplane. And these railroad companies, instead of, they were just like, what are we? We're a railroad company. But if they would have just said we're a mass transportation company, because that's what they were for, is moving things, that's what railroads are for, then they would have switched to the airplane. But they didn't. All railroad people just said we're railroad companies, nothing else. And like now, then they're all like useless. And if they would have just like switched over and been a mass transportation company, they would have had the monopoly on airlines. There'd probably only be one airline because no one could compete. But they just didn't do that. They didn't think about why. They just were going straight to what.
Yeah.
It just explains so much, like how simple of a concept it is if you just think, why am I doing this and how can I do it better?
For sure. No, I agree. Yeah, it was a good book. I think I read that one a couple of years ago as well. Yeah.
I did say, I feel like the second half just kept repeating itself. And I was like, all right, I get it. I think I should just stop reading. But once you start a book, you just can't stop. Like I have to hit that end page and close it.
Yeah.
Every time. I've heard through Sergeant Mike Thompson that you're a transactional leader, or you're big on transactions in the Air Force. You think it's a requirement. Can you speak to that at all? Is that something?
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe that we can be kind of both a transactional and a transformational leader within the Air Force. And what I do on a daily basis is mostly transactional because as NCOs, when problems arise or things happen, we go and we deal with them right on, right? If being a transformational leader is you're going to change the whole organization for the vision that you have moving the organization forward. So I believe that you can kind of be both. Now, through being a transactional, I said that we usually run operations like that daily, because you can't necessarily plan transformationally on when a domestic violence dispute takes place and you get called to that, or a drunken disorderly takes place at the driving range, and you have to respond to that. Like, you can't respond to it transformationally, but you can move the organization, develop how you want to push the organization to make it better. And professional development is a great way to be transformational in your organization, because you're investing in the people who are going to invest in the mission after your investment.
Yeah. So you say professional development. How are you getting security forces member professional development?
So, I mean, there's definitely many different ways that you can, I mean, we can encourage people to get involved in the program that you were running. We can host different professional development seminars within the organization.
Okay.
We can look to do NCO professional development throughout the wing here. I mean, there's definitely many opportunities for people to be able to do that. Currently, right now, it is more along the lines of us promoting people going and getting involved in some of the professional development things.
Mm-hmm. A lot of them just don't want to do it.
I mean, you can see that some of them want to continue to hone their craft, and that sometimes, they forget about the whole important end of being a supervisor and growing other people.
Yep.
Because they're honestly still trying to grow themselves in the Air Force and figure things out. And then sometimes maybe we start a little bit early with trying to develop people too fast. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we may try to push people before they're honestly ready to be able to be propelled in that direction,
Yeah. Earlier I asked you, how do you motivate security forces people, and you gave us me an answer, and I feel like that's part of it, is pushing them to do all these different things is motivation in itself. Just having the chief or just any outranking person or someone they admire try to direct them in this new thing. And then I feel like most people, when they try something new, most of the students that went to Air Power Leadership Academy, I don't think they wanted to go. They were asked if they wanted to go, and they're like, I can't say no. So they went. Some of them raised their hands. When I asked that question 12 weeks ago, none of them raised their hand. And then when I asked it at the last class last week, a couple of them were like, all right, I didn't want to be here, but I'm really glad I'm here. And that's what it takes, is just getting nudged into something new. And you're kind of like, oh, I really love this. And if you absolutely hate it, if you really hated it, you don't spend that much time dwelling they made me do this, the professional development thing. We get told to do things all the time we don't want to. It's not the end of the world. That's a really good way to look at it. Another thing Mikey Thompson said about you, and I feel like you're doing it because I'm almost talking more than you're talking at this point, is just really good listening skills. How do you think you gain those listening skills and maintain them?
Yeah. So as far as that, it's just receiving more stimulus so that you can kind of continue to figure out the situation, right? I mean, when we if we're a law enforcement officer, we get on scene, right? Then you have to kind of figure out what's going on, and some of that takes your observation skills of what you have currently handed to you. And also, I've also known some leaders too, where they're so quick to be able to respond to different instances that sometimes their response isn't necessarily right on to what they need, because there's still more information that they need to receive to make those right decisions. And so I just kind of learned a little bit, through reading some books, you don't have to be the first one with the idea. But I think one big thing that I'm doing is I'm just trying to look for further stimulus so I can kind of put the pieces together a little bit to make right decisions, Yeah. And sometimes you don't have all that time to be able to listen and to be able to make those decisions. So it's you take what you get and you make them.
So you're not always a listener, just it's situation based.
Absolutely.
That's right. Sometimes you don't have
absolutely
time.
I mean, sometimes you got to move and you got to get these things going, and I absolutely have no problem doing that as well too.
Yeah, it's really interesting you're saying that. Is it's situational based and you try to listen if the time is there. When I was in high school, I played quarterback, and I wasn't very good. They called me handoff back because I just handed off the ball most of the time. And but whenever we were like in a huddle, like at practice, or if someone asked a question and the coach was there, even though I knew the coach would know the answer better than me for what route the receiver had to run or what hole the lineman had to block, I would just try to answer it as quickly as I could. Even if I wasn't sure, I just would always try to answer and talk because I thought I was supposed to do that. And then one day, Coach Jamie Edom pulled me aside. He's like, John, sometimes you need to just not talk and just listen, because anything you say, you're already going to know and you're already going to understand. So if you just listen, it's an opportunity for you to learn something new. And I just remember, like, in the moment, I was like, wow, like, how wise. Yeah, I'll just shut up. Like, like what a simple, and I've remembered that. And that was 12, 13 years ago. And it's like something I still remember. Just shut up. Like, let other people talk, because you'll figure it out. Like, you'll learn something. Yeah, it's a really cool thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So you learn the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Learn to just shut up. It just works. Oh, that's good. I think just listening, it's in so many books, or like even the Air Force teaches you that, like through PMEs, to just be a listener, but it's so much easier said than done.
Yeah. I mean, what is it? Effective listening.
Active.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or active listening. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. So when you're letting other people listen, I feel like you're just allowing others to influence you, essentially, like through my story and through yours.
Mm-hmm.
And I think whenever you allow someone to influence you, or like when they think they're influencing you, they just like you more. It's just like another transactional thing we do. You know what I'm saying?
Upward influence is actually a pretty powerful tool for any leader, actually.
Is that the term, upward influence?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that kind of goes right along the lines of being transformational, or allowing people to allowing people to try and influence you to make the decision, and allow them to run with the decision. So it, of course, creates more buy-in by the individual, which I thought that was interesting as well. Again, another learning lesson. I know that I have a couple different instances that really kind of pop into my head. One was I had a great staff sergeant when I was a tech sergeant, and he was always a guy. He would come to me with some good ideas, but I was a young tech sergeant. I was still trying to pave my way. I was still trying to figure things out, and he would come with great ideas. And sometimes, I'd be like, no, that's not a good idea. That's not going to work. And I would give him reasons and kind of showcase some things. But imagine the power that I would have had if I would have been like, just put that aside and said like, hey, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's go ahead and let you run with that. And as a staff sergeant, right, he's going to run with it. He's going to give 100% with it. He's going to make sure it doesn't fail. And also he's going to get some awesome experience out of doing it, where he's going to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And so that would be part of that transformational process, or transformational leadership that I could have had. And so you think about those things, and we talked about earlier, right? That critical thinking or self-reflection a little bit. So,
yeah, because on the flip side of that, when you just told him no and here's why, like, what did he get? Nothing.
Exactly.
He just didn't like you. He liked
and then
you
I said, "Hey, do this," and he was like, "All right, yeah, I'll do it." And then he gave me half effort.
Yeah. Yeah, again, what got you here won't get you there. It's that exact same thing. There's a chapter in there, or a section called adding too much value. When someone comes to you with an idea and they're excited and enthusiastic, you should just say, great idea, go with it. And because if you throw in little input like, that won't really work, change this to that, they're just like, no, it's not my thing anymore. Like, I have to ask Chief Shone or Sergeant Tisue what I have to actually do. It's such a simple concept.
Yeah.
Let them run with it. Okay, good luck.
Absolutely.
Let me know what you learn. I guess so. Being a chief, here's something I would like. I'm kind of doing it now. I've been a master for just over 2 years. I feel like a lot of times I'm put in these moments where I have to like make decisions that affect other people, like big life affecting them. And I really struggle making those decisions. And talk about self-reflection. If I open that journal, there's a lot of things in there where I'm like, I made this decision for this person, and this is what's going to happen. Do you have moments like that you can reflect on or think of where you've made decisions to change someone's life?
Wow. That's definitely, one of the things that us as leaders, we're faced with those type of circumstances all the time, because we have to affect people's lives. And not, you can't always think of a great reason for them to go, well, yes, this is what the call is, but this is how it's going to benefit you. Cause right now you just took their leave away and they're like, well, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
They hate me,
There's 700 other people in the squadron. Why
Yeah,
can't I take my leave?
Exactly. But it's definitely looking at the situation. I'm trying to recall a couple good scenarios, as kind of as you progress, in your career, you'll advise the commander on more and more things, and those are always tough discussions to have, because that if you're advising things, they're taking it into consideration, and somebody's life is going to be different too.
Yeah.
So that's a tough part of the spot. So you always try to find what some of those happy points are, where you can kind of help people more. And I know I had mentioned it earlier, man, but that's one of the biggest things that I enjoy doing is definitely helping people, finding those niches and learning about their stories and whatnot.
What do you think is so satisfying about helping someone?
I don't know. I maybe it is that intrinsic motivator, that feeling that you get, that when you help somebody, you may have changed and altered their thought processes on things. Man, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like something we need to figure out. Why does this feel so good to help someone? And why can't everyone just try to help people and get off on this like I do? Why is it only me and a select few other people that enjoy this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like one person I knew wanted to do this additional duty protocol. They really wanted to do it. They were like, I just really want to try that. And like my manning at my facility wasn't that great. So I just made the decision. No. Yeah. You're not doing it. Yeah. Didn't think past it. Didn't ask the master sergeant at the time. Just made a decision. And then I really learned they weren't having a happy time in that facility. They were just trying to get out. They were very eligible. They loved honor guard. So protocol would probably in perfect form. And I just made I feel like I really made a mistake on that person, where their career could be at now, had I just been sure, you can be protocol, or at least get an interview. Let them tell you no. So have you ever had a moment like that where you just said no instead of?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know why? Because no is probably the easiest answer, right? Because sometimes you say yes, and you got to go sell it to the boss.
So here's something I think I'm starting to struggle with more, and it helps that I'm at Kunsan, because I don't really have much else to do, and I can't really leave the base with a group of more than 3. We have all these restrictions. But even stateside, or when I was in Germany, I was struggling to leave work on time or meet deadlines. I'd usually meet deadlines, but it costed a lot, coming in early, staying late. Being a chief, do you feel like you're I feel like there's always things on your to-do list?
Oh man, there always is. Yeah. So that work-life balance, which is interesting, because I had that discussion with your ALA member who, came and did an interview with me, and we talked about that. And I thought that he brought up an interesting question, because as a young staff sergeant, you know what their work-life balance is. Like, okay, 4:30, my time is done, man. I'm out of here,
Yep.
But kind of as you kind of progress in the rank, you get to those higher echelons, it's always like, hey, maybe I can get this one more thing done before I jump out of here. Next thing you know, it's 7:30. You're going home, and you got young kids and a wife, and that's definitely not a good look. And that does not help save marriages at all.
Yeah.
And so I went through kind of some of those same instances with my wife, specifically when we were stationed in Minot, North Dakota. I was in charge of the Tactical Response Force as a flight chief there. I did that for about 2.5 years, and then I went and ran nuclear convoys up in the northern tundra there of North Dakota. And we would deal with the same things, man. We would go on convoys. We would be out there for 12 hours. We would come back, turn everything in, and then it was getting caught up on admin. And I'm doing a 14, 16-hour day, right? And my wife, she we had 2 young kids at the time, and I would get home, and she wouldn't be all too happy. And why wouldn't I blame her?
Yeah.
She'd been there all day with the kids, caring for them. And so those type of things, you have to have that. You have to look yourself in the mirror when that type of thing happens, because I definitely learned that you and maybe somebody in the audience might have heard this before too, but when we hit that retirement button and we're up there and we're getting that metal pin on our chest and we're up there doing our last speech that we'll ever do in the United States military uniform, it's always going to be your family that's going to be right there in the front row. People that I'm leading right now, probably 99% of them will not be at my retirement ceremony, but who will be there will be my wife and my 2 kids. They definitely won't miss it. So letting them, giving them or giving them some more attention, it's definitely worth it, specifically as you start hitting into the senior NCO. Work-life balance, when the music outside comes on, that's when you pull your CAT card and you pack up your bag. And that way, by the time that the national anthem is done, then you can be walking out the door going home. And that's a good work-life balance. And when you get home too, stay off your phone, focus on them a little bit, talk to your wife, ask her how her day is. With us being here in Korea, right, it's a little bit different for me. Usually that starts around, 8:00 at night, and we're doing it via FaceTime, but we're still trying to maintain some of those same conversations, to where we can stay linked in. And that's pretty important.
Yeah. I feel like, those phones you can't leave work.
Yeah.
Unless you turn it off and say, I'm done. I bet it never leaves. Yeah. I also feel like you're saying when you get home, just that you could understand why she'd be upset or she wouldn't be excited to see you.
Right.
Yeah. Like,
at the time you're like,
that,
I just worked all day. Like what's wrong with you? Like, but kind of thinking back on it, it's like, no, she's got a little bit of reason to be upset, You
didn't text her.
I tell you what, man, it's not, I don't think that we talk about it enough. And that's, for us, like for my wife being a military spouse, man, they also serve too.
Mm-hmm.
Because they make sure things are taken care of on the home front when we deploy. They make sure a lot of, like for me and specifically, she makes sure my kids get to the doctors and have everything that they need and a little bit of what they want, and, I definitely believe that she serves as well too.
Yeah.
So hi, Jenny.
You got it in.
Yeah.
Check. It's the only thing he wrote on the board behind me. Say hi to Jenny. No, that's cool. Something I feel like when I joined the Air Force, the national anthem would play it at 4:30, and like a lot of people, chiefs I've heard say when that music plays, Chief Harper at Spangal, he says if the music plays, I'm leaving. I'm finishing the last thing and I'm leaving. And I think, and that was 2 years ago at Spangal, I feel like the national anthem played at 5, and now I'm here and the national anthem plays at 6.
Yeah.
The Air Force has got it figured out. They know, like, hey, we can get more work out of these people. We just keep sliding the national anthem right. I wonder if that was like a coincidence or like a strategic decision someone made.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Someone's smart up there figuring it out.
But finding that work-life balance, it's definitely valuable.
Mm-hmm.
It'll help with prolonging your career for sure.
Yeah. Career and family life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I started now that I've got more hobbies, that leadership course. We started a book club. Guest number 3, Kara Fish, started a book club out here, which is really cool. We had a meeting last night. There's 7 people there. Like, it's really cool to just read a book and then we all talk about it every month. Just finding hobbies to do has gotten me to leave work a little sooner, even out here in Korea, just because I have to go to the gym at 5:45 at the latest. Beat the music. Yeah, there's these little things that, and I do feel like I actually don't dread going to work because I'm not going to be there till every task is done, and the tasks never get done. They just keep coming. So I keep bringing up Mike Thompson. He told me another story about, I guess when you were senior master sergeant, you realized maybe the work-life balance thing you hadn't figured out yet, and your feelings were being shown on your face and people weren't approaching you, and so you decided to change that up somehow. Is that?
Yeah. Kind of looking back on that, that was kind of during when I was in my tenure, when I was at Ramstein, and we were dealing with a lot of things, a lot of dynamic things happening during that time frame. And man, that's a great observation. So for me specifically, if I was just letting all the taskers and everything kind of get into me, and you can see it on people's faces when they get tired or when they get stressed out. And when that happens, people tend to kind of stay away from you as a leader, which is not what you want. You always want to be able to have what's going on, that pulse of how everybody else is doing within the unit too. And of course, people would check me, hey, Master Sergeant, you okay? Everything going okay? All right with you? And I appreciate that they chose to do that with me. But when that happens and people start drawing away from you, then that can be dangerous for you as a leader, because the way I see it, that we need to be more in tuned. We make more cash, I'll say, by keeping that smile on our face, telling a lighthearted story, every once in a while, maybe give them some high fives, keeping it like that. You know what I mean? So definitely, yeah, that was a great learning lesson for me, leadership wise, kind of growing up. And again, man, another self-reflection moment.
Yeah.
Where, I PCS from Ramstein, I went back to Minot, and I said to myself going into Minot that I was going to be different, and I was going to be a different type of personable person that way. And I was only there for a year, but it was a phenomenal year, believe it or not, in Minot, with the negative 48-degree wind chill and, snow piled up 8 feet.
Oh.
It was still a great assignment again, still. So, there's power in that for sure.
Yeah. How do you suppress your natural emotions?
Man. Yeah, that's a good question.
I figured it out.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's just having the self-awareness that that you're going to make more money by just asking somebody else how they're doing for that day. And then also, it's okay for you to tell people how you're doing if they do ask, because it's just natural for us to be like, oh, how's it going? And be like, oh, it's going great. What about you? That's a natural exchange between two people. It's a little bit different when you go, oh, hey, how's it going? Well, my day's all right. Like I've definitely had better, but it's not that bad. That's like, oh, all right. Do you want to talk about it? No, I'm good. I don't need to talk about it. But it creates a different dynamic with it. So I think that's why people just a lot of times just opt for, hey, yeah, my day's fine.
Yeah.
Because then you don't put that other person into a bad situation.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't start digging. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some of the other jobs you've had, I know you've had a lot. I know you had one where you got to wear like a suit and tie, I was told. That's what Mark White, the ALA student, said. He said he was like, he had a job where he was like wearing a suit and tie for a couple weeks. I don't know if it was years or how long you did it for. What was that job?
So, yeah, I mean, so that was one of the best jobs I've ever had, probably. I was stationed down at Headquarters U.S. Central Command, and I was a protective services agent for the 4-star commander at the time. So yeah, that's where they provide you a civilian clothing allowance, and you can go down there and you're part of the general's protection detail. And so being in CENTCOM, my AOR was the CENTCOM AOR. So we were continuously traveling out there, and it's a very high ups tempo type mission where you're TDY about 300 days a year.
That's a lot.
And kind of talking about the family life balance. We had just had a baby right before we PCS there. So the first 4 years of my son's life, I was in and out, but TDY quite a lot. But it was very much on the go. So we would deploy, or I wouldn't deploy. I would go TDY to Kuwait. I'd do a 10-day mission there, and then hop to Qatar, do about a 12-day mission, fly all the way back to MacDill, and then 3 days later I'd be up in Washington D.C., and then I'd be back. 10 days later, I'd be in San Francisco doing a mission out there, and then I go from San Francisco to like Tajikistan or something weird, another country like that. And so that was continuous for 4 years, but I got to meet some amazing people doing that. And I got to see some of the president's national strategic objectives being implemented by the CENTCOM commander at the time. And it really kind of gave me a different perspective it's because of that job I started watching the news too.
Yeah, I do not watch the news that much. My dad will email me these news articles. I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't read it. And I was like, oh, come on, cool.
Well, my boss would be in like the HASC or the SASC, the Senate Armed Services Committee, and he'd be testifying, and I'd be kind of sitting in the back of the room, or he'd be in the House Armed Services Committee areas there. So just kind of seeing those things take place and watching them go down was very interesting. But we had a lot of close, like, weird things happen too. Like one time I was in Yemen, we went to FPCon Delta, and then we left, and like 3 days later the embassy got attacked. And then, but I got to go to some amazing places too. Like Lebanon was awesome. A lot of the Middle Eastern countries actually are pretty westernized, like going to Bahrain and going to Jordan. Those are all pretty cool places. Some spots in Africa as well.
What other like tight situations did you get into? Those sound pretty interesting.
There was some, yeah. So like one time when we were in one of those countries, we usually do these things. They're called route advances. So we'll grab an embassy driver. We'll go drive, the routes that we're going to take for the limo, when the motorcade is moving through. And we were going through these high trafficked areas quite often. And then the day of the mission, we sent a guy out in front of us to just kind of drive the route. And then he kind of reported back, hey, it wasn't that busy. I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't add up to the same things that we've been dealing with here the last 4 or 5 days. And so kind of as we're traversing some of those, they were normally packed areas. Now there's dead. There's nobody there. And so that was one of those kind of spidey senses things that kind of made, the antennas stick up behind your head and go, okay, well, we need to make sure our shock group's tight here, But I mean, nothing necessarily transpired. We were told by some of the host nation guys that there were some shady characters down there, and they did have some things, and they were being questioned by some of their police services guys and stuff like that. But nothing really came out of it, or nothing really got back to us on it. But very fortunate though.
Yeah, I guess you don't really want things to happen when you're doing that. So you were labeling off some cool countries you've been to. Did you keep track of how many countries you've been to in your life?
No, I should probably do that.
Yeah.
Though.
What do you think it is? Take a guess.
If I was
plus or minus 60.
If I was to throw a guess, I'd probably have to say, just a little bit north of 60.
It's pretty cool to think about that. Like, you just joined the Air Force to be a Security Forces member, and now you've been to a third of the countries in the world. Like, it's really cool when you just self-reflect and like, hey, what have I done? Well, I've been to 60 countries. Yeah, you should make a list. I have one of those little scratch-off maps. I think I've got like 40 countries. I think.
Oh, man, that's a good idea. Yeah.
They're like $20 on Amazon. Yeah. They're worth it, keeping track. Just going to different countries. And it makes me like, instead of going to Amsterdam every weekend, which is something I definitely could have done, like I was like, now I got to scratch off some of these places, and I traveled around and get around. So when you're TDY that much, here's something that I've always wondered, like how wrestlers stay in such great shape when they're just traveling all the time. Like, how did you find time for a gym, because you don't have a gym membership, or even eat something that's not a fatty fast food meal or a restaurant meal?
Yeah, absolutely. That's those are some of the challenges there. I know that when I was doing it, I was running a lot. Mm-hmm. So like one of the protectees that I used to provide protection to was an avid runner, and he was in phenomenal shape too, for a 4-star general.
So you guys had to run with him?
Yeah. Sometimes, it ended up like him finishing and us like coming right behind him, But I think he enjoyed being able to get out there and smoke a bunch of young guys out there on a 5-6 mile run,
I'm a great 4-star general.
Yeah. But I mean, that's definitely what you got to do, right? Is you have to find that time, and you have to build it into your daily regimen. Mm-hmm. I mean, there would be days where you get up in Jordan, and the shawarma is probably one of the best things you can have there, right? But when you get up, you may have early meetings in the morning as well, or you might have to meet with the host nation. So you got to kind of build it into that day. So some days it's at the end of the day, but you have to make it a priority. And I would say that that's probably one of the biggest things that I did there, was just kind of make it a priority for me. Usually I get more out of it if I do it in the morning than if I do it at night.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I have much more energy to work out harder in the mornings than I do after a 10-hour day or so. How did you stay on a diet?
So a lot of what you eat is a lot from the hotel or different restaurants there. So it's all about choices.
Okay.
And which choices you make,
Probably difficult.
Yeah, can be, especially if you're not necessarily tracking what's going on in the menu too.
Yeah.
I
know here at Kunsan, Sheriff is very well liked. Everyone says he's a really good leader. I'm sure you interact with him quite often with your job. What do you think about him makes him, like, that's what everyone says, is that this is the best commander I've ever had. Like every security force person says that about him. What do you think it is that he does so special?
And he is he's personable. I think being personable, you get a little bit of buy-in from other folks with that. If you can remember specific characteristics about what's going on in their lives, people appreciate that. I know that Sheriff is a phenomenal human too. I really enjoy working for him. He brings a lot of great expertise and commander expertise to the mission here. He's on his third command, so he's done a lot of things when it comes to being a commander.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I've enjoyed with us and our relationship that we've kind of melded a little bit here. And he's my boss, but it really speaks volumes about the triad. I don't know if any of the other chiefs, big name chiefs on the wall here have ever talked about the triad.
No, tell us about it.
So the triad being the commander, the first sergeant, and the chief of an organization. Okay. If one of them is can be out of sync, then it brings a different dynamic. Which with us, Senior French, he's my first sergeant.
Okay.
And he's a phenomenal first sergeant. And I tell you, with the three of us, there's three initials that kind of talk about what we get after every day. That's TCB, man. That's what we try to do. Take care of business.
Okay.
Yeah. We try to take care of business every day for our airmen, because I think a lot of what Sheriff and my first sergeant thoughts is taking care of people, taking care of the mission, taking care of people. Because we know that taking care of the people is what's going to carry over and take care of the mission. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic. But yeah, kind of going back to Sheriff. Sheriff's he's a great person. I've actually learned a lot from him as well. Just interacting with him, going out and doing post checks and visiting our airmen, and then integrating into different parts of the squadron, seeing his leadership style. He's very transactional as well, but he's done a great job with being transformational too in the squadron, with setting our unit up for the new squadron commander who's going to be coming in here next month. So
okay, yeah, I think ours is getting switched out next month. Is it just the whole?
It's pretty much pretty much every commander here.
That's interesting to do it. That just a whole clean sweep.
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, but
it's challenging. I say, having a good relationship with your commander, it's tough. I've had where it was on the opposite end.
Not good.
Well, it was. We would be fine, but there would be times where I just in important situations that I didn't necessarily feel that that some of my opinions or what I was bringing to the table as far as what my job is was even being heard or received.
Yeah.
And so that does present some challenges when it comes to a chief and a commander type relationship.
I feel like that would bring a challenge between any supervisor subordinate relationship if they just can't communicate or feel useful.
Right.
No, I'm useless. Why even try?
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems fundamental. It's cool to to see that can still, or I guess it's not cool to like know people that high up can still have like those, what sounds like a very simple problem of just speaking the same language.
Yeah.
Just inability to do that. But yeah, that's definitely not the case with Sheriff, at least from what I hear. You're speaking highly of him, and so does every other defender that I've met. So that's really good. We got to figure out what he's doing so perfectly and copy that, replicate it.
Well, I mean, I kind of hit it on earlier, and I believe it is being personable.
Yep.
You know, and then also, I think if you ever take a notice where if other leaders can come and kind of, if you're the one in charge and they can manipulate some of the thoughts, you know, some of the ways that those things are supposed to go, that actually makes a lot of money. And I know we've hit on it a couple of times so far in our conversation here, but it gives them that buy-in.
Yeah.
And I'm completely convinced by that, because it's also some techniques that I have implemented and I've seen too, you know, and a perfect example is like, a lot of times what my boss, Sheriff, asks for is he's like, okay, what is your recommendation? And that's a pretty cool thing that he would ask other people what their recommendations are. You know, like if somebody comes with a problem and brings a potential solution, it's like, okay, well, let's make sure that solution makes as good tactical sense, and then we can move out with it, you know?
Yeah. So he's a big proponent of when someone comes with a problem and a solution to like run that route. Like you've seen that happening.
So yeah, I have, and I've also seen some things where he can steer a little bit, where you can have some of your ideas still, and then he'll also apply some extra instructions into it to really fully meet the commander's intent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. Like just letting people be involved.
Exactly.
It's so simple. And we'll always speak about leadership and what he does so well. Jade Thomas said this about you, and obviously it'd be really weird to ask you to like give an example of it, so I'm not going to ask you to do that. But something she said about you, a tech sergeant in the leadership classes, she said that while Mark White was speaking about you, she like just had to get some words out about you too, and she just said you like always have like these enthusiastic football coach halftime speeches that just get people ready to go to war and do things. And I was like, that's like a really cool thing, I think, to like have people think that about you. How do you feel hearing that?
Yeah, that's pretty cool, right? You know,
who doesn't want that?
Yeah. You know, I mean, being a coach is something that we do. So yeah. So usually anytime that I get an opportunity to speak to my squadron, I definitely take that opportunity. And in a lot of cases, I just share to them what some of my thoughts are, you know, what I'm thinking. And I've broached different topics such as like, you know, hey, it's okay for us as defenders to be having a tough time, you know, and it's okay for us to take a knee. Let's take a knee. Let's get you some help. Let's talk through some things, and then let's get you back on the line, get you back into the fight, you know, or that's kind of a big one for me right now, because I mean, obviously 22 a days out there, but then also defenders too for a while have been kind of going down that road, and the road of suicide. And so that's kind of hits me, because a lot of them, you know, they may not feel that they have the ability to be able to come up on comms with it because of some things that have just been baked into what our situations are, you know, such as if you're coming to work, you're going to post. Well, maybe they're not in the right frame of mind to post. And so we're changing mindsets, and we've been actually getting after it for a little bit now, for about 5 years. And it's an important thing to continue to foot stomp and get after. Because I mean, you know, one is too many.
Yeah.
One suicide is too many, and kind of going away from that is definitely the direction that we need to go. And I think that we can do it if we're out there and we're continuously saying the same message, that it's okay. It's okay to take a knee.
Yep.
When I was in Minot, I had a phenomenal commander there. Lieutenant Colonel, he was on his third command in a row as well. So he had been through the meat grinder when it comes to commanding. And what I mean in a row is like he left one base, went to another one, commanded for 2 years, and then he ended up at Minot. So that's extremely challenging for any commander. And he was the one that really kind of helped me see that. Guy by the name of Lieutenant Colonel Greg Bonestein. He really helped me see that talking and keeping open lines of communication with mental health is important for a command team.
Yeah.
Because honestly, we want to be able to push forward for people to be able to take knee. Because if somebody was to go ahead and go into that direction and say do an attempt, well, there's not much that we can do then, after that takes place. But if we can get them to come up on comms before they get to that point, then that's a lot better for the member and for the Air Force, because we can kind of put some time into them, allow them to take that knee and allow them to go and get the assistance that they need. And I've seen it kind of both ends where somebody had attempted before and we got there in time, saved her life, and then we sent her off. And when she came back, brand new person, like just a great personality, and saw how valuable and awesome life was. And those are the kind of people you want to retain, But with an attempt, it's extremely difficult for the Air Force to do that. So
it is, and it's good to hear like those stories, like because a lot of people hear that perception, if you go to mental health, your career is done. Like that is a thing that everyone thinks, and it's not a real thing. So it's really good first to hear like stories of people going through it and coming back better.
Yeah,
like, it's really good to hear that. And I'm friends with the Master Sergeant at Mental Health here, Anita Garcia McClintock's her name, Master Sergeant, and she was telling me like that at any point you can call mental health hotline and you can just say, this is a hypothetical question. What would you say if I was this job and I was thinking this? And they'll just answer it right then and there. They won't take your name and you can just hang up and like at least get that information at any time, like hypotheticals. You can do that. And I thought that was really cool. Obviously they might try to get you to come in, and as they should, but you can do that. And it's just a really cool plug that you have to just get help and know what avenues you can get without actually going there, and if you're worried about that kind of thing.
For sure.
Yeah, that's good. When she said that, when Jade Thomas said that about you, I was, you just can't think of like all the different cool sports movies. Like, oh, maybe this guy will get on my podcast and I start just motivate for a full hour.
So it's kind of interesting because the last Hail and Farewell we went to, sometimes as defenders, they forget how important they are in the cog of the United States Air Force and what goes on in projecting air power here at Kunsan, because when you're out there, right, you see maintainers, they're maintaining the aircraft, they're wheeling out to the aircraft, they're fixing them and they're they're conducting all their repairs to them. You take a look at the operational guys and the pilots, they're of course they fly, of course you control.
Yep.
When
we do that secondary runway, you guys are vital.
Yeah, right, for that safety. Yeah. Yep. But sometimes, in the as security forces, we forget about how important it is to have security on the patch. Mm-hmm. Without security, then nothing else can honestly happen. And so I definitely utilize that time space to be able to kind of get across to my defenders, that they are important within this patch. They defend this patch. They make sure that the bad things stay away, and that when the bad guys want to come and attack and they take a look at our defenses, that they go down to the next installation.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see like in an actual commander's call, you pitching that would be a lot more like they would be there. I could see it. I'm gonna try to sneak into one. Something else Security Forces does really well here. PT, like a lot of people with COVID, we have slacked off.
Yeah.
And I'm no different. I've taken a couple breaks here and there, but it is cool to see you guys meeting up and like run. I don't know if you guys run the entire base like of the 5 mile loop or it's just like there's a lot of Security Forces members that can make that run.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's something that's been happening since before you got here, or if you guys just recently started that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say we recently started probably about a month ago.
Okay.
To where we just meet kind of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and usually Fridays is a 5 mile run. So we go out 2.5, we hit the 2.5 turnaround, and then run back too.
What percentage of people make it those 5 miles?
So honestly, there's a we have a pretty good percentage
Yeah.
actually of people that make it. I got a lot of fast airmen too.
Yeah.
A lot of we're talking they could run sub 7-minute miles for 5 miles. We also have one of our LTs who's right now training to go to Ranger School.
Nice.
So he's going there en route to his next assignment. So he's absolutely ready to go when it comes to that, and he's running probably a below 35-minute 5-mile run right now, which is perfect, like exactly where he needs to be. It's where I was when I went to Ranger School back in like 2004. So
yeah. I mean, just running that every Friday 5 miles, you're gonna get some fast people because you're doing it and no one else is doing it. Like it's just such a simple concept. Again, if you run, that's how you get fast. Yep. I won't say who it was, but I had a leader at my first base, and he was like, "If you get 100 on your PT test, I'll find a way to get you a week off work." I was like, okay, like, and not only am I like running with my friends on that, like my coworkers, like we're all in this together, like just trying to be fast. A couple of us, like that's quite the reward. Like, like, so that definitely helped. And because I had that given to me when I was younger, I like continued to be a decent runner, like try to stay in shape because I don't know, it's like a reward I got when I was young, and now it's just this thing I keep doing. And I try to compete and stay as fast as the younger guys who are runners, or try to get them to run. And it's just cool the influence you can get when you're young, and then like it just maintains throughout.
Yeah.
But I do think that's really cool that at least 50% of your career field here can run 5 miles. Because I would love to say that about mine here, but I don't think it would not be a high percent. And I don't, even mine would be close. I definitely wouldn't be running 7-minute miles.
No, they smoke that. That's pretty fast.
Can I show up to one of those? I just want to go.
Absolutely.
Once. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because we have some of the people from the wing they'll show up, and we'll have some other folks too. So yeah, absolutely. Come on out.
I should. Yeah, I will do that before I leave.
Yeah.
I'm just going to try to beat Mike Thompson. I'm just going to beat him. That's my goal. Actually, so this is my Osan jersey, but the colors are like your guys's are very similar. And so I was like, I'll put this on since I'm talking to you. Like maybe you would have yours on. It would be confusing to people. But I had to put it on for this. I do have some more things. I don't know if you have to be anywhere. I have a few more questions I'd love to ask you. Like just your interests outside of the Air Force. What do you do? Yeah.
So honestly, you know, I'm kind of a homebody when it comes to outside the Air Force. I try to invest into my family as much as I can. So I got a 10-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son. Mm-hmm. And so honestly, like what we like to do is we like to go hiking. All four of us, my wife included, you know.
Even in Minot?
What's too much hiking going on there, you know, but we tried to get out as much as we could. I mean, because you only get about 2 weeks or 2 months of summer there, and that's counting some of the spring, you know. But no, I enjoy hiking. So one of my battle buddies, he and I, we had started a trek going up the Appalachian Trail, started in Georgia, heading all the way up to Maine. And so we've done about two runs with it so far. We're about 250 miles into it right now.
How does that work? So you start in Georgia.
Yeah.
You go where you can, then you go back home, and then you start where you left off?
Yep. So it's just they just call it section hiking.
Okay.
So, I mean, still being active duty, and last year was more challenging because of COVID. Mm-hmm. So what you do is you just try and knock out a couple sections. Takes a little bit of planning, and then you kind of get to where that end state is, and then you just pick up where you can the next year. So that's kind of the plan. Yeah. So right now we're kind of right to the entry point to where the there's a national park up there in North Carolina. So we're about right there at the entry point to it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Smoky Mountain National Park. Sorry.
If you every year, let's say there's 5 things you look forward to every year. Obviously, your anniversary with Jenny.
Yeah.
Maybe your own birthday, maybe your kids, who knows. Where does that rank on like something you look forward to every year, going hiking with your...
Oh, man, that's awesome. I would have to say 3.
Oh, man.
Number 3.
Yeah.
Because it's great. You know, you get out. You get to see some great, amazing scenery, some things that you know, you get to experience a lot of different and new people. You get to meet a lot of new people on the trail. Some of them are a little odd, which is weird, or which is okay, you know. But it's just a great time, especially when you're out there with a bunch of friends and you just kind of kick back, relax a little bit, and just kind of cut up and chew in on each other a little bit, you know?
So is it a paved trail like many people are on and you just like encounter as you go? Is that how it works? You like
No.
Oh.
Very, very unimproved. It is very up and down, you know? So you're always climbing up a mountain and then you're always going down a mountain.
And you just have a backpack and a couple MREs or whatever?
That's it. Well, no. So interesting point, right? So you try to be a minimalist. So truthfully, you don't really have much pounds. I think I'm up to about 26 pounds on my pack right now.
Okay.
But a lot of the food which you eat, it's horrible for you. It's like ramen noodles and tuna packets and, you know, these freeze-dried meals and whatnot. And you just kind of live off that stuff. And usually what we try to do is we try to plan for like a resupply point where we'll stop somewhere and just kind of replenish, maybe wash some laundry real quick, and then just kind of get right back out on the trail. So it's usually about 7 days. And we'll usually stay in like kind of like a bed and breakfast or like a place right on the trail.
Every night?
No, just one night. The rest of the night, I'm usually sleeping in the hammock, you know.
That's cool. Just you pick a spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Last trip we were on, we were kind of trekking through North Carolina, and there, I could have sworn there was a bear in the camp.
In the camp?
Because you can hear him sniffing, and he's like, you know, you can hear his feet hitting the ground, and I just woke up in the middle of the night. I'm so glad he didn't come underneath my canopy there where my hammock is.
Yeah, you were just sitting in the hammock hoping he
doesn't
doesn't
shit
smell
my
you.
pants if that would happen, man. Seriously.
That sounds terrible. It does sound like a really cool adventure to like look forward to every year, year after year. How many more years do you think you need to finish it?
Man, I don't know right now. I definitely think that my family has a say as well. You know, whenever their fun meter kind of gets pegged, you know, then I'm sure mine will be getting extremely closer.
Yeah.
So my next assignment is taking me to Wyoming, and it's another a challenging assignment. So we got this one where we're doing these RTs and we're doing continuous exercises all throughout throughout your time here. And then we'll go there and it'll be different challenges. It'll be different inspections and whatnot. So it just seems like it kind of doesn't end, but that mission for us is very black and white. So you step over the line, guess what? You get schwacked, you know? Yeah. We kind of go along those things with it. But if it's 3 years, then it's 3 years. If it's 7 years, then 7 years. Once my wife kind of comes and says, "Hey, you know, let's have a discussion." Yeah. I'll be like, "Okay, let's talk. Let's see where we're at," you know? Yeah. But I think I'll be like one of my peers, Chief Clark, right? CK.
Okay, yeah, I was like
he and I we talked about it before, you know, and he's like, you know, I'll do it till I'm not having fun anymore, you know, and I'm kind of the same way. I'm having a good time still. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I didn't know you were friends with CK, which is really cool to hear. Before I talk about CK, man, now I forgot what I was going to say. I guess we'll just talk about CK. it'll come back to me. I'm sure it will. But did you meet him here?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
So as soon as he came out of ROM, you know, we all live in the same hallway. Yep. So, you know, I ran into him that way.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a
great guy.
I don't know if he calls himself a social butterfly. I don't think he calls himself that, but I know he's like a very social.
I've heard him refer to himself that way before.
Yeah. So butterfly is not, and if that's what he's called, I'm not at all calling him out. Like, it just doesn't seem like a masculine term. I don't know. But I don't want to be called a butterfly of anything. So just when he is very social. Even so, he was the radar chief controller. We were at OSAN 3 years ago together, and I was in the tower. And even though we didn't really work together, he was very vocal. You know, he'd always say hello. He knew everybody's name, which is something I'm big on, like learning people's names. Yeah. So it's cool that like he was actually here not that long ago on Mother's Day. So Sunday he was here to do the podcast. Yeah, he signed up there, number 7. So you're number 8 right behind him, right after him. Yeah, he has like over 100 views like within like a day. It was really cool how many people love that guy to watch this thing. Man, I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, this is what it was. You're saying like all your assignments, you're like they're very task or like you're becoming really busy. And whenever I think of like what a chief does in an assignment. I just assumed that's what you're supposed to be, is really busy and overwhelmed doing difficult things. Is there assignments somewhere for chiefs that aren't that way?
Yeah, I haven't found it yet.
If there is, let me know so I can.
I haven't found, but I mean, honestly, it's interesting because, all day long, I think the only time that I have for me really is in the morning from 05:30 to 08:30, and then at night from 18:30 to 21:30.
Mm-hmm.
Those are about the times that I have for myself. Everything else from 08:30 to about 18:30, right? It's all dedicated towards helping people.
Yep.
And you're helping people. You're helping the mission. If you're not knocking out a decoration or some EPRs, or you're reviewing other people's products, or you're helping people with problems or issues, or you're trying to find solutions to specific problems or issues. It's all dedicated and over people. Mm-hmm. So you have to really kind of take that time in the beginning part, right? That 05:30 to 08:30 to really get after some things for you specifically. So I try to, not look at my phone as much. I give it a real quick glance in the morning when I wake up, make sure there's nothing, priority that I'm missing, but I usually don't return to it till about 8:15 in the morning.
Okay.
And I think what that is it allows me to focus. So that's when usually I'll work out, I'll read, I'll journal, I'll do that kind of things. And I do those for me. Yeah. And then at night, it's always dedicated towards like homework. And then also talking with my family too. So, I kind of mentioned that because the whole span, you wouldn't think about it, right? You wouldn't think about that's what you do. I mean, as a chief, is you just you're helping other people, all throughout the day, which is, it's gratifying.
Yeah. Yeah. The opportunities I get to do it, I usually do enjoy it. Like I usually do. So I could imagine at your level. When you were talking about decorations, when you said it, I just couldn't help but think, like, I don't know how many security forces here there are, but do you read every single one of those for your entire
Every single one of them, yeah.
Yeah, like that. I could imagine that.
Yep.
Like that is a task.
Yeah.
Hopefully they come to you pretty well. I know there's a lot of senior NCOs that see it before you do, so hopefully
they do. Yeah.
That's a lot of decorations to touch.
So yeah, so right behind me is Senior Master Sergeant Bruce Thompson. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he's a phenomenal senior NCO who works the operations. So he's got the biggest section in the squadron, obviously. Okay. Probably about 235 people in his section that runs operations and whatnot. Okay. So yeah, phenomenal senior NCO, and he is very good at kind of working those decorations and making sure that they read right for his airmen. Yeah. But yeah, every single one of them, man. And same thing with EPRs too. So we just got done with the senior airman one. Yeah. So, that was a good exercise.
It's time to celebrate. Yeah. Yeah. I had a captain at Spangalum. He had this thing called like leave at work. So basically like once a week, he would just take a day off. He wouldn't answer his phone. He wouldn't answer email. He would close the door. He's not there just to do those things, just to like not get distracted from anything else. Yeah. I don't know if he did it once a week, but he would do it once in a while. It's like a really great idea to like just get things like that done. Because whenever I'm working on a decoration or EPR, and like my little email pops up, like I stop everything I'm thinking and I look at it, respond to it, and I try to get back in it. I feel like I lose like just 5 minutes getting in that zone again of like, where was I? So yeah, when I think of that 200 decorations, like, oh, all right, 200 EPRs.
That's not bad. Yeah. I mean, you get them spread out. It's not all at once.
That's true.
That's positive.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the questions I like to ask, I do it for all my air traffic controllers, but it's going to work the same for almost every career field. I'm going to ask, you can't pick yourself, and it's going to be 5 questions about different defenders for 5 different categories. And I'll tell you the 5 categories, and then we'll go through them one by one. Okay. And then basically we're just going to like talk about each one to like try to capture what it was that made that person special. So the 5 categories, it's going to be best overall like security forces member, defender. Okay. Like who that person was, why were they so special? Most like book smart in the career field, or however you determine what book smart is. The third one is going to be best overall leader, like just showing leadership traits, characteristics, however you define leader. The 4th category is going to be the nicest defender you ever met, like just someone who's always nice, that could own a Chick-fil-A and run it really well. And then the final one is if you went back 22 years and you could pick one person that you've met and they're the same age as you and you join together and have them with you for your entire career. Can't pick your wife. If Jenny was a defender, who would that person be? So starting with the first one, best defender you've ever met.
Man. So yeah, good questions. I would say the best defender I ever met was one of my battle buddies. He's also one of my Ranger buddies. We went through the pre-Ranger together, and he's also one of my mentors too.
Okay.
So believe it or not, he's a mentor, plus he's a really good friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Jimmy Wilfong. He's stationed down in Moody right now.
Nice.
I say he's one of the best defenders because I think of him as kind of like one of the best humans that I know. And I learned so much from the guy, whether he's just throwing me little tidbits here and there, or he is, I'm watching him work a specific situation, which kind of working with him a little bit in our past has really been extremely beneficial.
Yeah.
And then I also kind of look at him as kind of ways like how would he handle specific situations? Because he always brought a good positive spin to it. And he always kind of made sense with the direction that he would take the situations,
Yeah. Yeah, I think, just like you saying, you were always paying attention to the way he was doing things. Like, you're like extra critical when you already admire someone or think they're your mentor. You're like, why is he doing it this way? Like,
yeah.
I said about CK, like I've seen him do things. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like one time I had this idea with CK of like, we should do this. Like, and he was just like, no, we're not going to treat them like kids. Like, we're not going to take away their toys. I wanted to take some away. And he was like, we're not going to just take it away. Like, they're adults. And I was like, all right, that does make sense. So yeah, that's really cool. Like, the best defender, someone obviously a mentor. And I feel like you're going to, what'd you say his name was?
His name's Jimmy Wilfong.
Jimmy Wilfong.
Yeah.
It's like, sounds like someone that you might want to pick in these next 4 categories potentially, but you can't do that. You can't pick the same person twice.
Right.
So second category, most book smart, knows all the defender regs.
That's a good one. I would have to say, let's see, smart. Let's see. There was a couple good. You meet a lot of those book smart individuals when you work in the nuclear enterprise because it's very compliance based, And so you always wanted those guys. And so there's an individual I used to serve with. His name's Marty Lurch. I would definitely say that he was probably one of those guys that I could go to and ask a specific answer or a specific question to, and he would give me two answers. One would be the book answer, and 2 would be the no nonsense. This makes the most sense answer.
Like he's
right?
not critically about.
Yeah, and sometimes the book answer doesn't make sense. A lot of times those books, right? They're written by people that are dislocated from what's going on in the mission, so that's why they potentially could not make sense. But he would always give me a great perspective. He was a great person too. He retired senior master sergeant.
Okay.
So, I really did enjoy me talking with him and him give me a different perspective.
How often have you still reached out to Marty and been like, what do you think about this one?
Yeah,
Does he still
that's
care?
a good question.
Yeah.
So yeah, Marty and I, we kind of lost a little bit of track since I left Minot the second time, and then he retired. I was able to catch up with him real quick on Facebook and see his retirement stuff.
Oh, nice.
And now he's doing, I'm sure he's doing great things, with his retirement pin.
Yeah. Mr. Marty.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to ask, when Jimmy, you said when you guys were at pre-Ranger school, were you at Moody with him as well?
I was at Moody with him.
That's cool to like catch back up with him years down the road. I always think that's like, I have a lot of really good friends I met at my first base, and I just hope one day I get to be with some of them again.
Yeah.
Most of them got out, but there's a few still in, and I think that would be really cool to catch up. All right. So we got Jimmy, we got Marty, and then for number 3, it is overall natural leadership skills, however you think leadership is defined.
Yeah. So when you natural leadership skills, those are very unique, right? The one person that pops into my mind specifically with that I learned a ton from, he was actually one of my subordinates at the time too. He was a master sergeant and I was a senior master sergeant. His name's Jared Getz. Just made chief here this last go around, right? But this guy, I mean, he had amazing leadership skills too, and he not only did he talk the talk, but he definitely walked the walk. You know, I would see him, and I would see people gravitate towards him too, and I was always fascinated by that, by how people would be like, hey, you know, like they would want to go and just intermingle with him and just you know, shoot some of the shit with him, or they want to ask his perspective on specific things. And I always thought that was a great thing, but he just had a natural charisma about himself that he wanted, that people just kind of wanted to they were attracted to, and they just kind of wanted to be around, you know?
Yep.
And even though he was a subordinate, right? Like I find it interesting because I still learned a lot from him, watching him just be him, honestly.
Yeah.
You know? So that he gave me a great perspective, and I appreciate him for that. And he and I, we do keep in contact.
That's good.
Too.
Yeah. Chief gets select. Is he one of those people that, like, when he just says, hey, will you do this? Like, people are just like, okay.
Oh yeah.
Like, no questions asked. Yeah.
He's one of those guys, but you know, I mean, he implements a lot of those positive leadership skills that people want in their leaders. Like he gets to know people, and he's not in a hurry when it comes to people. If he's talking with folks, he kind of stays until the conversation is well talked through. It's not like he hurries through the conversation just to get to his next thing. And sometimes there's leaders like that in the Air Force, that they're so task driven that they lose the opportunity to be able to sit there and really get to know people. And we had mentioned earlier about getting to know somebody's story and how phenomenal that is. That's definitely something that I've been implementing since that one time when I went to Minot. Remember my second time I had talked about is kind of getting down into the dirt a little bit and learning more about these people. He would definitely do that. And I think that was a big potential. Sheriff does that as well, which is another potential of why people gravitate towards them.
Yeah. It seems like a very important skill to like grasp. It's just, yeah, I like that. I like that pick, because that's like, you know, when I first started this podcast, I want to, like, you know, we talk about leadership so much, but when you start asking people, well, why was this guy so great? Like, you can kind of start pinpointing different things that people do. And that's usually one of them, is just their listening skills and people willing to just do what they ask. So it's cool to hear Chief had that. Yeah. That he made Chief. Good for him. How long has he been? Has he got a lot of time left?
I think he's probably at about 19, 20.
Okay. That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. So number 4 is the nicest defender you've ever met.
Nicest defender. Interesting, because there's a lot of nice ones out there.
I feel like there's a lot of mean ones. I should have switched it up. We'll go with nice still.
Yeah, I know that I would say kind of coming up in my time in CENTCOM, I was with another defender there. His name was Hank Crook. And this guy, he's just the kind of guy, right, that will just give you the shirt off his back. You know, you're down on your luck, he's going to help, he's going to pick you up. And he would just, if whatever you need, he's going to kind of track it down. And also you couldn't necessarily say a bad thing to him, because he would always find that positive thing incorporated into it.
Yeah.
And he would identify that and say, hey, gravitate towards this, you know? He was a good guy. He was definitely a good guy that we've kept in a little bit of contact with over the years. Actually, he came to Minot with me for a little bit, and now he's doing amazing things still in the Air Force. Good.
Yeah. Hank Crooks. I feel like positivity is what really like makes you a nice guy too. So
yeah,
he's a nice guy. But if you're positive, you're just like, I can relate to this guy.
Yeah.
It's good. All right. The final one. Everyone you've met in 22 years, 23 years this month, you can pick someone. You go to basic together as Airman Basics, and you're starting over. Who you picking to have someone with you for your whole career?
Man. And it can't be somebody that I've already said, right?
Nah, you can pick someone, I guess. It just sounds like Jimmy, was that the first one, right?
Yeah.
It just sounds like you were gonna pick him.
Yep.
So I was like, oh, we gotta switch it up.
No, I won't go out easy like that. Somebody that I wish would have been with me in my first year, a guy by the name of Nicky Drago was a blessing that was kind of put in my life when I was in Minot my second time, through my story. And, he was just one of those leaders that didn't just gravitate towards me. He gravitated towards everybody, and he gave everybody that ability and opportunity, if you wanted to progress, he was going to help you. And he's the one that really taught me about helping other people, about, getting after and assisting other people and getting that intrinsic motivation to be able to help other people. Because I know he really helped propel me in my career, gave me some phenomenal advice as a young senior master sergeant at the time, and really kind of, I believe, kind of helped form me for the direction that I'm currently serving in right now.
Yeah,
as the defender chief.
Yeah, it's interesting. You can kind of pinpoint, because that's senior master sergeant. That wasn't that long ago
Right.
for you. To like pinpoint, that's when you started really caring about people. You just assume most people have always kind of cared about that. Not saying you weren't.
Yeah, I definitely was caring about people, but I would say that was always a primary aim for me. But I added more specificity into thinking about that, and how I added more attention at it.
Okay.
And that's when I found out, hey, I got a lot more joy and impact from it too. So.
Yep. Yeah. That's, I guess, I think I said it wrong the first time, but that's cool. Yeah. So all 5 of those people was like something that hopefully a lot of other defenders that listen to this, like, oh, I know some of these guys, and they'll like reflect on. And I feel like when people message you, it's usually going to be about like those last 10 minutes or so, because they're like, they also know these people and they can really relate and like try to capture like what made those people special, that made them your top 5. Yeah. I came up with this idea when I was like in middle school, and they were like building the perfect quarterback, like during the playoffs, and they had the mind of Peyton Manning, legs of Michael Vick, arm of Brett Favre, and I forget the rest, heart of Tom Brady. But it was just like such a cool concept. I was like, I should like start doing that with like all these skills. Like I was really into soccer at the time. I was like, how would I be the best soccer player? And then like now that I'm trying to like learn how to be a better person or leader, it's like, how do you become a better leader? So it's nice asking guests like that and just trying to like really pinpoint what it is from people that have influenced them. Another really interesting question I love asking people is, if you could meet 2 people for lunch, someone that's still alive, you get to have a 30-minute lunch with them, and then another person who's passed away, you get a 30-minute lunch with them. Who would you pick and why?
So I would say somebody that's still alive. I would have to say, believe it or not, Jocko Willing.
Oh,
I would just like to pick his brain about a couple things, talk to him about some leadership strategy and tactics, things that he kind of implemented there, and maybe discuss on some topics that he wrote a lot on with his time in Ramadi, with Leif Babin. And it's interesting because some people will think, oh, well, those leadership tactics that he utilized in all his books, right? They may have worked for SEALs because those people were well bought in. Well, how is it now for people, that serving in security forces? And I'm like, well, absolutely. It definitely applies to it. Yeah. It's all about how it's applied, so I find that that's exciting, but I just like to just kind of talk to him a little bit about the creation of some of those things,
Yeah, no, that would be really good. And I would be like, I would hope I could listen on those 30 minutes while you just digging this guy's brain on it, because I do enjoy listening to him talk. All right, someone that's passed away, who would you pick?
Somebody that's passed away. Let's see. I would have to kind of go along the lines of, I don't know. My brain is kind of blanking on that one.
It's tough.
Yeah. Yeah, I might have to come back to that one.
That's good. Yeah, so I've only asked 2 people that prior to you, and they both picked Hitler. They just wanted to ask,
okay.
like, why did you think
Just
this
kind
way?
of getting into the psyche, huh?
Yeah. And I was like, those are really good answers. So cool. Yeah, I do really appreciate your time. I try to always I've always say I'm going to make it 90 minutes, and I have yet to actually do that, but eventually I'll pinpoint it down. Yeah, if you have any last words, I mean, I definitely want to thank you for being here. I had a good time. I'm excited to see how many people listen to this and then respond to me as I always do. I love when people give me feedback on like different things I can ask. But yeah, any final words you've got?
Okay. Yeah. First, John, thank you so much for this opportunity, man. It's just nice to be able to come and talk about some leadership topics, specifically. I appreciate your interest in some of my career that I've had so far in the Air Force. It has been very dynamic. I've been able to do some phenomenal things. I've really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed having our discussion here tonight as well. So yeah, thank you very much for the invite. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I am more grateful that you came than what you just said. I just don't show it, I guess, very well. So thank you so much, Chief Shone, Andy Shone, number 8. Thanks everyone for watching.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for listening to episode number 8 with Chief Master Sergeant Andy Shone. It was a great experience to interview someone that I was unfamiliar with. Chief Shone and his commander sheriff are 2 leaders on base that are always spoken in high regard. Through this interview, I can tell why. Special thanks to Mike Thompson, Jade Thomas, Mark White, and Chief Stewart for giving me information about Chief Shone prior to the podcast. Finally, thank you, Chief Shone, for hearing about my podcast and your willingness to reach out and allow me to host you. I appreciated the 90 minutes of your time. We just broke 50 subscribers on YouTube, and I am surprised that many people were willing to subscribe. I have about a month left in Kunsan and hope to get as many conversations in with people before I leave. As always, reach out to me to talk about an episode, suggest questions, or give me feedback. Have a Tisue podcast. Current platforms are YouTube, Spotify, Pocket Casts, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, and Anchor.